which is taking spot Bitcoin off the market and putting it into ETFs every day, just indefinitely, you're frankly retarded. And so much is wrong with this, because he was saying, like, basically, his logic was, let's just call it 12,000. There's 12,000 BTC coming off the market every day. And there's around 2 million BTC on exchanges. Right? We all know there's 19 million Bitcoin, 21 million in total, but there's about 19 million that are currently have been mined. But there's only ever 2 million roughly on exchanges. So the logic he's doing is that, there's 2 million Bitcoin, right, that are freely available on exchange, and there's 12,000 coming off every day. And he just takes 2 million, divides it by 12,000, and he says that equals 166 days. And so 166 days is about 5.5 months. And he says in 5.5 months there will be no Bitcoin left. Supply shock. It's not how it works. It's not how it works. So, I need that meme. You know, this meme. This is how I feel when I read these terrible takes. Is this. It's all so tiresome. That's how I feel when I hear that. Just complete nonsense. So, the way TradFi trades is they trade based on relative value and rebalancing. So, in a simple sense, these ETFs will be bought based on programs which will not just keep buying. The way this guy sees it is, there's going to be the way he sees it is, no matter what, there's 12,000 BTC that's going to be bought every day net, no matter what. But there won't be, because if they keep buying 12,000 Bitcoin every day this week, guess what? The price of Bitcoin will rise. Because these 2 million Bitcoin that's on exchange, people don't want to sell them at 44, 43, 42. Okay? So price has to go up to where they will sell. Some of them will sell at 48. Some of them will sell at 50. Some will sell at 55. Some will sell at 60. Some will sell at 70, 80, 90, and so on. And so obviously he's trying to say that he literally said this. I'm not even going to fucking link the guy because he's just a moron. He thinks Bitcoin's going to be at $1 million in 6 months. Yes. $1 million per coin. Yes, you heard that. Not understanding how TradFi works. TradFi are used to low volatility, not high. Bitcoin's volatility is going to get lower over time, not higher. For it to go to $1 million from here is higher volatility than Bitcoin has ever had, even in 2013. So it's not going to happen. Sorry to tell you. We'll get there eventually, but probably 10 years away. Because if that 12,000 keeps coming out of the market every single day, the price will rise. Because if there's that constant demand, people will say, okay, I'm not going to sell here, I'll sell higher, I'll sell higher, I'll sell higher. But as it goes higher, that 12,000 demand won't be there. Because of the way TradFi trades, that if it goes suddenly from 42 to 50, there won't be 12,000 of demand. People say, no, it's overbought, it's too high, we're going to stop. You might see 2 or 3 or 4,000 Bitcoin that day. And then the volumes will go low. And then price will drift back down to 45, and then they'll start buying again. If it goes down to 40, they'll buy even more. If it goes down to 35, they'll buy even more. And then as it rises up, they will sell. So if it dropped to 35, they would buy a lot more. It would push back up to 40, they would buy a little bit less but keep buying. If it pushed up to 50, they would start selling. That's how, that's how every market works, right? It oscillates around a fair value. And that's why the stock market, the S&P, just goes up and to the right over time. Whereas if you drag like some type of moving average through the middle, right? This is the most basic understanding of markets. This is just how markets work. This is what mean reversion is. You want to buy when it's cheap in these portfolio constructions. Right? These aren't traders. These are value investors. There's a massive difference. You buy when it's cheap and you sell when it's expensive. right? It's simple logic. And that is why we get the up and to the right nature of most of these markets, like the stock market. And so they'll buy here, but they'll sell there. They'll buy here and they'll sell there. And they'll buy here and they'll sell there. And it will mean revert back to the middle each time. And that's just it. That's just how it fucking works. So, it was just one terrible take I saw. And so my main case at the moment, like I'm trading Bitcoin on the long side only. And I actually like this move here. I think Bitcoin goes straight up from here, up into at least this 44k level, somewhere around 44.3. Because when you lose the 200 EMA, and then you test it, sells off, you test it, sells off, but it keeps holding and holding and holding, I'm sure this is going to reclaim the 200. It's going to push all the way up, just into a lower high, but it offers a decent, at least my bias for my short-term trading, my scalping or day trading today, is long only as the US markets open again, and I think some demand comes flowing in as Bitcoin is now cheap, right? Bitcoin was expensive at 49, it's cheap around 40, and it will probably drift back towards the middle, somewhere around 45. That's just how I'm playing it, how I see it, and from a trading perspective, when you lose this level, a bunch of people short, there's shorts building up, there's sellers are built up, there shouldn't really be any selling pressure to push price down here. It should go up first, find some new liquidity, and then go lower after if it's gonna. We're just playing it really simple, exact same as it did over here, right? Lost the 200, spent a bit of time on the 200, everyone sold, up we go. Is it going to squeeze up straight in a straight line into the lower high? I don't know. But the path is far more likely to be up from here on the lower time frames. But like I said, I still expect this to be the end result. I think we pop up nicely, people get excited, but it's right up into big resistance, that 45k, and the breakdown level, these lows before the final high, and it probably finds resistance around there and then just chops. So of course I'm not saying that fractal's going to play out, as I never do that, but up, down, up, down, up, down, that's what I expect, right? And so I talked about trading on centralized exchanges is just going to get into hard mode. So I'll use Link as example. Like, everyone is just, there's so much anticipation for the next breakout that the market is not really going to be, I just don't think the market's going to be very forgiving for anything like that. And I think it's pretty, at least for me, from having observed the last couple of days, it's pretty clear that the easy mode is over for alts on centralized exchanges. The reason why I say centralized exchanges is because that's where the majority of the trading happens in a bull market. Most people, remember, the people who lose consistently are the ones that are the least informed and the laziest. So they didn't catch the bottom, they didn't catch the first leg up, they only started trading once prices were up a lot. And how do they trade? Well, they just go to their exchange. They go to Bybit or Binance or Coinbase, and they trade what's there because it's convenient. They're not going on chain looking for the next big coin. They're not trading NFTs or anything kind of, out of the box. They're not playing with new protocols and doing airdrops. These are just basic traders, right? Not even traders, just dumb money. And it happens every single time that when Bitcoin finishes its run and goes into a lower volatility period, alts will run in the short term, but then it will get extremely difficult. And so, I'm long Link. I've been long Link since 15. To me, time-wise, so time is just as important. It's more important, really, than price for me. Because when I buy something at a certain price, I expect it to move. If it doesn't move, that tells me I bought at the wrong price. So I'm still in profit here from buying at 15. But since I bought over here, it went up a bit, down a bit, up a bit, sideways. So it's just consolidating. Looks okay, but I just see that this is how I view it, right? Because when you buy something, how does it go up? You don't move the market. You bought, right? So like I bought at 15, and then I'm just waiting. Supply and demand. If you always should keep that in mind. Whenever I buy at 15, I'm relying on other people to buy and push it all the way to where I want to sell. That requires an active market. That can either be through, if there's a lot of shorts and they have to close and there's a short squeeze, great. That can be if there's a really bullish, early-ish, a relatively early uptrend where prices can push a lot higher. That can also be it too. Just a general bullish market, right? Let's say there's money printing and the liquidity is rising and money's flowing into the market, great. And so, since I bought, and I've been waiting, and I'm sitting long, I just don't see the kind of reaction that I would want to see. And if I look at Coinalyze and I find link, why is it slow? There we go. So open interest had picked right up. Predicted funding rate. And let's look at CVD spot and futures. So this kind of spike up in OI was around the time that Larry Fink started talking about tokenization. So obviously people got long link, and they kept getting long link. Now we're up into the high. OI just kind of tailing off as price goes sideways. Nothing overly concerning about that. The first part of the move was broadly led by spot. Funding rates were above neutral, but now they're back below neutral. So, like I said, to me, just technically, Link still looks fine here. It's still above my entry. It filled up the inefficiency, but then if this was bearish, right? So normally what you would see if this breakdown was bearish is it would come back, fill that inefficiency, and then sell off in there like it did, and then continue lower. It wouldn't then come back up, fill the next one, push higher, right? It would have come up into this area and gone like that. That's what you'd expect if it's bearish. But it didn't. It went like this. And so even though we're kind of low volatility, chopping around a little bit, sort of just disinteresting, I think Link is most likely going to make a new high at some point. Whether that's just part of a Wyckoff, where you have your... I mean, the Wyckoff here on Link is sort of a little bit unsure because you haven't had any weakness. So that was a, let's call that a buying climax, right? AR. You have your second test, but also an upthrust just at the same time. Comes back, doesn't show any weakness there, makes another upthrust, then sells off down to the lows. I wouldn't necessarily even call that weakness, right? It went below this one, but I wouldn't call that strong weakness because a lot of people are looking at saying, oh, this is like the LPSY and we're going to go lower. It doesn't seem like that to me. It doesn't seem like Link has shown any major weakness. I think if anything, it's just going to go sideways. So my bet is Link is going to make its way up to the highs. If it doesn't, I think it's going to follow like what I said with Bitcoin and a few others, where maybe it just goes like this, back to that support again, and just kind of peters out. And a lot of them are going to do this, where they just grind. They spend a couple of weeks grinding down. Then they eventually just wick those lows, take those people out, and away we go for the next leg. So none of that's bearish. That does not make this distribution. You have to understand. Distribution only is valid if it distributes and then actually marks down and has to find a new accumulation range. I just don't see that happening. Not on Link. Some coins it will. But for Link to distribute, it would have to go back down to this area. And, you know, an 18, 20 month bottoming range after a bear market typically doesn't get revisited. So I certainly also don't want to hold my Link long through all of this. So that's path B. That's like the bearish path. My path A is that Link is going to hold up in this area here, then make a push for the highs, after which point I can decide whether to take profit or leave it open. I don't know. The short answer is I don't know. I am broadly bearish, or short term. When I say bearish, I'm short term pessimistic for alts on sectors